The night was heavy with silence. The alien arena stood tall like a black mountain, its gates opening with a slow grinding sound. Inside, thousands of glowing eyes stared down from the shadows. The aliens had gathered for one reason, only to watch a human break. In the center of the arena stood a man. His hands were chained at first, but even when the guards released him, he did not move. He was calm, his eyes sharp, his chest rising slowly as he took in the thick alien air. He knew. This was no ordinary fight. This was a test of survival, a test of will. And he could not afford to lose. Across from him stepped the challenger, an alien girl. She looked young, but her presence was strong and dangerous. Her skin shimmered faintly in the dim lights, her tall frame moving with perfect balance. People believed she was a born warrior, trained from childhood to crush any enemy. She looked at the human with a cold smile. "You will not last even once," she said, her voice echoing through the arena. The crowd cheered at her words, their claws scratching the metal rails, but the human did not reply. He only tilted his head, studying her as if she were not a threat. At all. The announcer's voice rang out. "The rules are simple. The challenger must bring the human down 3 times. If the human cannot rise again, his life is over." The alien girl's eyes narrowed. To her, it sounded too easy. To the crowd, it was already decided. A human could never endure her strength. The gates slammed shut. The fight began. She was too fast. In a blur of movement, she leapt forward, her claws slicing the air where his chest had been. The sound of her strike cracked like lightning. But the human had already moved. He ducked, twisted, and slammed his shoulder into her stomach. The girl staggered back, surprised. No human should be able to react to her speed. The crowd gasped. She rushed again, this time with fury. Each strike was heavier, sharper, meant to tear flesh. The human blocked with his forearms, his body bending but not breaking. Every blow echoed in his bones, but he refused to fall. He had been beaten before. He had been starved, frozen, tortured. Compared to that, this was nothing. Minutes passed. Sweat ran down his face. The alien girl's breath grew louder, sharper, her chest rising faster. She was not used to an opponent who lasted this long. Her people always fell after one exchange. Still, she refused to admit it. "Lucky human," she hissed. "But you will not stand after the next." She charged again, her fist glowing with strange alien energy. The human braced himself, waiting until the last second. Then, with perfect timing, he sidestepped and slammed his elbow into her back. She crashed to the ground, dust rising in the air. The arena fell silent. The human stood tall, his chest heaving. His fists were still clenched, his eyes burning with something the aliens had never seen before. She pushed herself up slowly, her lips parted in disbelief. Her people were the strongest warriors in the sector, and yet he was still standing. The announcer's voice cracked through the silence. "First round, complete. The human rises." The crowd erupted into noise, but it was not cheers. It was confusion, whispers, and anger. They had come to watch him fall, but instead they had seen their champion on her knees. The girl wiped the blood from her lip and glared at him. For the first time, there was doubt in her eyes. The human only. Breath steady, like he had not even begun to fight. The night grew colder. The arena lights flickered, and every alien in the stands leaned forward, waiting to see if the human could endure again, because what had just happened was impossible. The dust had not yet settled when the alien girl rose again. Her eyes glowed faintly in the arena lights, but her breathing betrayed her. Each inhale was sharp, each exhale heavy. It was the first time in her life she had struggled for breath. She had fought beasts 3 times her size. She had crushed trained warriors in seconds. Never had she felt her chest tighten this way, not because of wounds, but because of doubt. The human stood across from her, calm as stone. His body was bruised, his skin marked, yet his stance had not shifted. He looked ready for more, as if the first clash had only been a warm-up. The crowd was restless. Some shouted for the alien girl to finish him quickly. Others whispered in disbelief. Could it be that the human had survived her best? Her jaw tightened. She refused to be humiliated. With a roar, she launched forward again. This time she did not hold back. Energy surged through her veins, her body glowing faint blue as her claws cut the air like blades. The human did not retreat. He met her charge head-on. Their clash shook the ground beneath them. She struck, he blocked. She spun, he ducked. Her speed was lightning, but he flowed like water, bending without breaking. Every movement of his body was precise, deliberate. He fought like a man who had nothing left to lose, yet everything to prove. Her frustration grew. Her strikes became wild, desperate. She tried to overwhelm him, but the more she attacked, the faster her breath ran out. Sweat trickled down her temples. Her arms felt heavy. And still, he stood. The crowd grew quieter, watching her falter. Some of the elder aliens narrowed their eyes. They had seen this kind of fight before, not in their own kind, but in humans. A will that refused to die, even when the body was pushed past its limits. The human finally moved. He grabbed her wrist in mid-swing, twisted, and pulled her close. For the first time, their eyes locked. His gaze was not filled with anger, nor mercy. It was something else: endurance. A promise that he would not stop, no matter what she threw at him. She gasped, her breath catching in her throat. For a moment, her knees weakened. She had never looked into eyes like his before. The human shoved her back, sending her stumbling. She barely caught herself, her chest heaving violently. From the stands, a silence spread. Then a single voice shouted, "The human is still standing." Others joined, their cries mixing with disbelief and fear. The girl dropped to one knee, clutching her side, her vision blurred. She could feel her heart pounding, her lungs begging for air. She looked at him again, and for the first time, she whispered the truth. "I can't breathe." The announcer's voice boomed, carrying through the arena. Second round. Complete. The human rises again. The sound of it echoed like thunder. The human stood tall, unmoving, like a shadow carved into the night. He did not raise his fists in victory. He did not smile. He only waited, ready for more, as if his body had endless fire hidden inside. The alien girl's hands trembled. She wanted to deny it. She wanted to believe he would fall. But deep inside, she already knew this was not over. And the third round would decide everything. Asterisk. The arena was no longer loud. The crowd that once roared for blood now sat in stunned silence. Thousands of glowing eyes stared down at the battlefield, their whispers crawling like shadows through the air. This is wrong. No human should stand this long. What is he? The alien girl stood trembling, her chest rising and falling in short, desperate gasps. Her legs felt heavy, her arms numb. She was not supposed to feel this way, not in front of her people. She looked across the dust and saw him, the human, still standing. His face was marked with bruises, blood streaked the corner of his mouth, yet his eyes had not dimmed. If anything, they burned brighter, and that terrified her. No beast, no warrior, no challenger in her life had ever forced her to this point. But this human, he had gone once. He had gone twice. And now, without rest, without pause, he stood ready for the third. The announcer's voice carried over the arena, heavy and slow. Final round begins now. The ground shook as she forced herself forward. Each step felt like stone tied to her feet, but her pride demanded she fight. She could not allow her people to see her surrender. The human didn't wait. This time, he moved first. He charged with a sudden burst of power, faster than she expected. Their bodies collided with a thunderous impact, the dust rising around them. Like smoke. His fists struck with raw force, driving her backward step by step. She tried to counter, tried to claw at him, but her arms lacked strength. Her vision blurred with every blow. The human did not stop his strikes, came one after another, relentless like waves crashing against a crumbling wall. Her breathing grew ragged. Her chest screamed for air. She stumbled, her knees buckling, but his hand grabbed her shoulder and held her up only to slam her back against the ground again. The impact rattled her bones. The crowd gasped as she lay there, unable to rise. The human stood over her, his chest heaving but his eyes steady. He looked down at her not with cruelty, but with unshakable resolve. He had gone 3 times without rest, and he was still there, unbroken. She coughed, trying to push herself up, her voice weak and trembling. "How can you still move?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. His silence was louder than any words. Around them, the alien crowd shifted uneasily. Their champion lay beaten, breathless, her pride shattered. And the human, they realized, was something far more dangerous than they had imagined. Not stronger, not faster, but something they could not understand. Unstoppable. The girl's hand trembled as she reached out, her claws digging weakly into the dirt. She wanted to fight more. She wanted to stand. But her body refused. And in that moment, she understood this was not a contest of strength. It was a contest of will. And no one in this arena had a will like his. The announcer's voice cracked, heavy with disbelief. "3rd round. The human still stands." The silence that followed was suffocating. The alien girl's head dropped, her voice barely a whisper as she admitted the words no one expected to hear. "I cannot continue." The dust settled. The human stood tall, breathing hard but unbroken. The alien girl lay on her knees, her body trembling, her lungs dragging for air. And for the first time since the gates had opened, the arena was silent. Not a cheer, not a roar. Only thousands of eyes staring at the impossible. The aliens had come expecting an execution. They had wanted blood, laughter, and a reminder that humans were weak. Instead, they had seen their champion collapse while the human refused to fall. Whispers began to crawl through the stands. "This cannot be real. She was chosen by the elders. No one survives her claws." The elders themselves sat stiff in their seats. Their glowing crowns reflected the firelight, but their faces were pale with unease. The human had done more than defeat their warrior. He had challenged their very belief. The alien girl forced herself to look up. Her pride screamed inside her. She had never bowed, never failed. Yet now, in front of her people, her chest heaved. Her vision blurred, and her enemy still towered above her. She clenched her fists, trying to hide the tremor in her hands. Her voice shook as she whispered, Why do you not fall?" The human did not answer. His silence pressed heavier than any words. His gaze was steady, calm, like a mountain that would never move. Around the arena, some aliens began to pound their fists against the rails, not in victory, but in anger. Others lowered their heads, ashamed that their champion could not win. A strange tension filled the air, sharp like a blade. The girl could feel it, the weight of her people's expectations crushing her. She wanted to rise again, to prove she was still worthy, but her body refused. Her pride was drowning under the truth. The human had gone 3 times without stopping, and she had nothing left. The announcer hesitated. His voice, once booming with confidence, now wavered. 3 rounds, the human still stands. A murmur swept through the arena like thunder. The silence cracked, replaced by disbelief, fear, and something else. Respect. One of the elders leaned forward, his cold voice echoing. This human, he is not ordinary. He is dangerous. The crowd shivered. The alien girl lowered her head, shame burning in her chest. But deep inside, another feeling grew. It was not just defeat, it was something far more confusing. A strange pull. The way he had looked at her, the way he had endured without pause. It shook her in ways she could not explain. She closed her eyes, hearing the crowd break into chaos. Some demanded her punishment. Others demanded the human's execution before his strength spread fear through the Empire. Human only stood still, watching them all, his shadow long against the firelight. He had not just won a fight. He had shaken a world. The arena gates remained sealed. No one moved. No one dared speak too loudly. The human stood in the center, his body bruised but his spirit untouchable. The alien girl knelt before him, gasping for breath, her pride shattered. Like glass. She had been their champion, the symbol of alien strength. Now she could not even rise. The crowd's unease grew louder. Voices overlapped, a storm of confusion. Kill him now. No, he has earned respect. He cannot be allowed to walk free. The elders at the highest seats exchanged grim looks. Their empire thrived on fear. If a single human could break their champion, what would happen if others like him rose? One elder leaned forward, his voice cold and sharp. This must end, not with respect, not with honor. End him now, before his will infects the rest. The alien girl's head lifted weakly. His words stabbed her chest. End him? After what he had shown? Her people had never honored humans, but in that moment, she felt something different, something dangerous. Her eyes met his. He did not look at her like a victor mocking the fallen. He looked at her like she was still standing. Like she mattered. Her chest tightened, not from exhaustion, but from something unfamiliar. Shame, admiration, even curiosity. The announcer hesitated. The rules had been clear. Survive 3 times, and the human proves his worth. But the elders' whispers carried weight heavier than law. The crowd sensed it too. The silence broke into chaos. Some demanded his head. Others demanded his freedom. Fists slammed against railings, voices rose like thunder. The arena threatened to tear itself apart. The human, however, stood still. He did not beg. He did not boast. He simply breathed, steady and unyielding, as though he had gone beyond fear long ago. The alien girl lowered her gaze. She should have hated him. She should have wanted his end. But instead, she whispered under her breath words only he could hear. You should not be alive, and yet, I do not want you to die. The human's eyes flickered, but he said nothing. The announcer's voice trembled as he declared, the human has endured 3 times without stopping. The challenge is complete. The crowd erupted, half in fury, half in awe. The elders stood, cloaks shifting in the torchlight. Their decision would come next, but in that moment, under the weight of the galaxy's eyes, the truth was undeniable. One human had shaken an empire, and the alien girl, once his enemy, could no longer see him the same. The arena boiled with chaos. Elders argued in the high seats. The crowd split between rage and awe. Some shouted for the human's death. Others demanded his freedom, claiming the rules had been fulfilled. But the human himself stood silent. He did not shout, did not beg, did not even flinch under the storm of voices. His stillness drew more fear than noise ever could. The alien girl lowered her head, her chest still aching for air. Yet her mind spun faster than her body could follow. She had trained since childhood, her people feeding her strength, pride, and arrogance. And yet this man, this fragile-looking human, had broken her will in front of all. How? Her gaze clung to him, searching for an answer. And for a brief moment, she saw it, not in his muscles, not in his wounds, but in his eyes. Those eyes carried battles older than this arena. Flashback. The human's past long before he ever stood in alien chains. He had fought his own war. Not in shining arenas, but in mud, fire, and silence. He had run through storms with no food in his stomach. He had crawled through nights where cold threatened to turn his blood to ice. He had buried comrades with his bare hands and promised himself he would never stop moving until he no longer breathed. Pain was nothing new to him. Hunger, exhaustion, loss, they had carved his spirit into iron. The alien girl felt her throat tighten. For the first time she understood. He was not standing because he was stronger. He was standing because he had already lived through worse than anything she could throw at him. The crowd could not see it. The elders could not accept it. But she could. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "You are not a fighter. You are a survivor." The human finally looked at her. No smile, no pride. Only truth in his eyes. The elders rose, their cloaks sweeping across the stone. One pointed a claw at him. "This human is a threat to the order. Kill him now. End this before his will infects our people." The crowd roared again, torn between fear and fascination. The alien girl's hands shook. She was supposed to agree, supposed to stand with her people. But her heart pounded differently. She saw something they did not. A force not of muscle, but of spirit. She clenched her fists, her voice breaking inside her head. "Why do I want to protect him? Why do I want him alive?" The human said nothing. He simply stood ready, as if even death itself could not make him bow. Arena waited for the elder's final judgment. But in the shadows of her heart, the alien girl had already made her choice, and it was not the choice her people expected. Asterisk. The torches around the arena flickered as the elders rose. Their shadows stretched long, their voices sharp as knives. "This human has gone 3 times without stopping," one elder declared. "But his strength is not a gift, it is a danger. If he lives, others will rise like him. Our order will crumble. He must die." The crowd roared in agreement, though not all. Some shouted for blood. Others, strangely, shouted for honor. The divide cracked through the stadium like lightning splitting stone. The human said nothing. He stood calm, bruised but unbroken. If death was coming, he would face it as he had faced everything else without fear. The alien girl's chest tightened. She wanted to speak, but her throat burned. Her pride told her to remain silent. Her training told her to obey. But her heart screamed against it. She remembered his silence during the fight, his eyes that had never begged, never mocked, only endured. She remembered her own words, whispered without meaning to. "I do not want you to die." The elder raised a hand to deliver the final order. "End him! Stop!" The word cut through the air like a blade. Every head turned. It was her, the alien girl. She staggered to her feet, her body still trembling, but her voice sharp enough to silence thousands. This human did what no one has done. He did not fall once, not twice, but 3 times. He stood against me when no one ever could. "If we kill him now, we prove nothing but our fear," the crowd gasped. Elders hissed. The eldest elder's voice thundered. "You dare speak against the council?" Her fists clenched. Her voice trembled, but she did not back down. "I lost to him. I bow to him. If you want his life, you will take mine too." A stunned silence fell over the arena. The human looked at her, eyes steady. For the first time, he saw not just an opponent, but an ally. The elders froze, their decision hanging heavy in the air. To kill the human now would mean killing their own champion too. To spare him would mean admitting humanity had earned respect. The crowd's whispers swelled into thunder. The empire itself seemed ready to split. And then slowly, the elder lowered his hand. His voice, cold as steel, rang out. "Take them both. If one human can infect a warrior with doubt, then neither can be allowed to walk free." Guards surged forward. Chains rattled. The alien girl did not resist. She stood beside the human, her eyes burning with defiance. "If they think chains can hold us," she whispered to him, "they know nothing of your will." "Or mine." The humans' lips curved, not a smile, but a promise. As the gates closed behind them, the crowd erupted in chaos. The Elders' empire trembling for the first time in centuries. And in the darkness beyond the arena, a new story had begun.